Hi everyone, hope all of you are doing good. I don't know whether that is the right question to ask you right now, isn't it? Because that is how the paper was, right? It is a testing time for both you and us here. We never ever expected such a paper to come, and that is how UPSC is, and it is all about it is prelims is just like an elimination round, fine. So, but having said that, there are students who have scored even 110 plus as well, right, in such a paper. So. Here in this particular video session, what I'll be doing is I'll be emphasizing more on the approach, the entire analysis of the paper. That is the first thing. Then the approach or the thought process that you should have when you're solving the question, the elimination method through which you could have got the answers right, which question to attempt and which question to leave. Especially in this particular paper, the entire essence was which questions to leave and which questions to attempt. And apart from that, the accuracy rate here, the success of this would be on getting the easier questions right, most of the easier questions right. So there were at least some 35 to 40, 30 to 35 questions which are of the easy level that you should have got it right. So scoring 80 in this paper was not that difficult, but from 80 to the 90s to hundreds or 110, that was the daunting task here, right? So here I won't be getting into the complete analysis. I mean, complete explanation won't be given here, because if that is the case, it will take it will easily take 3 to 4 hours, because I'll be covering all the subjects, the entire 100 questions I'll be discussing in this video. So what I'll be doing here is, because this will be a win-win factor for both of us, it will help you a lot in terms of like when the factual questions are there, I'll just skip through it, and when it pertains to the fundamentals of the question, where more the thought process had to be applied. So that is where I'll be stressing more on. So the conceptual understanding as such. So that is how the entire discussion will happen. And the what would be the likely cutoff, that I'll be telling at the end, right? End of all the 100 questions. That is where I'll be discussing about the cutoff also. And then the other most important thing that I'll be discussing here is the lessons learned, right? Lessons learned from this particular paper. If I have to stress here, the first thing is, right, you should be disciplined in your approach. You should be disciplined and regular in your preparation. Why do I say that? Is like, if you have looked at the paper, right, the last minute stuffs, say the compilations that come at the end, right, you might be sticking to it, thinking that that is the sole source, but that is not how it works out, right? Why do I say that? Like, there were comments which said that nothing came from the rapid revision series, all that, but we had put in our 100% effort. But as I said, your unpredictability is the nature of UPSC exam, right? So the thing is, but there are the other side of the story is there are students who have mailed, who have messaged me personally saying that your current affairs magazine, the monthly magazine, the daily quiz, all those have helped. Because see, the thing is, what I'm trying to tell you here is, you need to be regular in the preparation. It's not like last 2 months you just mug up some material and go. That doesn't work out. Fine. So that is what I wanted to stress. And second, most important thing is, you need stick to the static subjects, especially the core subjects, that is polity, history, economics, geography, right? Or even science and tech and environment. The static part, uh, no matter what the paper is, at least 40 to 45 questions usually come from static part. So if your foundation is strong, especially in this paper, the easier section was on from polity and economics, right? So the tougher section was from history and agriculture part. So that is how the questions were distributed this year. So the ones like easier questions, as I said before also, this exam was more about the easier questions, getting right in the easier ones, right? So that would have increased your accuracy rate, right? Especially the polity and the economics part of it, right? So stick to your static part. And the third thing that I wanted to stress is importance of reading newspaper, right? So if you're reading a newspaper and then complementing it with a monthly magazine or a daily current affairs of any institute or any website, that would help you. But completely relying on the last minute compilations, all that, right? At the end, where institutions come up with different compilations, that will never help you, because you'll be mugging it up. Because there are so many questions like that. I mean when you are regular with the subjects, only then you can get those questions right. It's not about mugging up and going into the exam hall, right? This is the third thing. Fourth thing, I had clearly mentioned in my the last minute tips or the strategy on the D-day of the exam also. Always you should have you gone to the exam hall with a neutral mindset, right? Don't have any expectations as such. Because why do I say that is because of the unpredictability nature of the exam. Just because you have referred certain sources, mugged up, that doesn't mean that the same thing will come from in the UPSC, right? And if you see the history part also, very tough questions were asked. So no matter what, how many times you would have revised history, you couldn't, like, at least out of 19 questions, at least 12 to 14 questions were of very difficult level. So that is how it is. So the and I'd also mentioned this: if you're not getting 10 questions right, 15 questions right, don't panic, because if it was tough for you, it meant it was tough for the others as well, right? So the people who kept their calmness, who were confident enough and who went through the entire paper, are the ones who have done pretty decent, right? That is how it is. So this and you should know which question to attempt and which question not to attempt, right? And the fifth, the important learning is the importance of previous year question papers, right? There was the coal ash, right? There was that was asked before as well, right? Or even the Kaveri, the protected areas, I think Nalakunda in Andhra Pradesh, that was asked before as well. So, and many questions from polity, especially the parliamentary system, the welfare state, or even what do you say, the constitutionalism, right? Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So all these questions that come from previous year question paper as well. So that is the importance of going through the previous year question as well, right? Even major minerals was asked. So these are the lessons that one should learn from this particular paper, right? So so with that, Gyan, I'll be directly getting into the questions. Before that, uh, let us see the distribution of marks this year, right? Uh, 16 questions from polity, 11 from science and technology, 16 from environment, 13 from geography and agriculture put together. What I've done is I have divided agriculture into two parts. That is the soil, the climate, the vegetation part, I've put it under geography, whereas the market mechanism, the investment, MSP, all that I've put it under economics. So with that, we have 18 questions here. History, the majority of the questions that come from history, that is 19 questions, putting ancient, medieval and modern together, and current affairs 7. Actually, current affairs can even be more because it has overlapping nature with environment and science and tech. Fine. So this is just to give you the clear demarcation of how the paper was set this year. Yeah, the level of difficulty, as I said, at least 30 to 35 questions were of easy level, and the majority of them this year. Why the paper was difficult is because, as you can see here, it is almost 30, 60, 70% of the questions were of moderate and difficult level. So that is the reason you would have felt so, right? The other thing that I've done here is I've grouped all the polity questions together. So this is section series B, but that will not make a difference because I've grouped all the polity questions together, all the history questions, science and tech, economics, geography. So it becomes easy for you. Say suppose because this will be one complete video at one shot. We won't be dividing it into like just polity, just geography video and publishing it. So this will be one complete video. So what I'll be doing is I'll be giving you the timelines also below my video. So there you can, whichever section that you want, you can just click, you can go to that timeline and watch that particular section, right? So that is your liberty. So that is what I'll be doing, so that this will be much user friendly for you as well. Clear? So now I'll be discussing all the polity questions together. That will be followed by science and tech, right? Environment, geography, economics, history, and finally current affairs. So this will be the sections that I'll be following. And the other thing that the second thing that I want to mention here is the easy, simple questions. I'll be just telling you the answer and I'll be moving on to the next, because as I said, if I have to explain every question in detail, it might take 3 to 4 hours. So where the fundamentals have to be stressed and where explanation has to be given, that will be emphasized, and the thought process, most importantly, the thought process and the elimination method will be emphasized here. Clear? Yeah. So this is one of the easiest section of this year. So going to the first question. The first question talks about the parliamentary system of government. A parliamentary system of government is one in which the government is responsible, right, to the parliament and can be removed by it. Basically, it talks about, even the entire Article 75 also is based on that. Right, the entire parliamentary system is based on collective responsibility, the government's collective responsibility, right, to the parliament. So this is the meaning of parliamentary system, and in fact, this question has been asked at least 2 times at least in the last 10 years, right? So it's a very easy question. Moving on to the next one, which part of the constitution declares the ideal of welfare state? So what do you mean by a welfare state? A welfare state is a state where it works for the weaker sections of the society. The best example here would be Article 40, where the government, using the provisions, the government has come up with Article, 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, that is Panchayat Raj system, right? Or even the free legal aid mechanism, that is legal service authority institution that has been formed. So so many things that have been implemented using the guidelines given in under DPSP, because the that itself is called, it's called fundamental to the governance of the country, right? And the socio and the economic democracy is nothing but these are the things, the values that you find it in DPSP, whereas the political democracy falls under the fundamental rights. Clear? So it's a straightforward question, and again this has been asked in previous year question papers as well, right? Again, a easy question here. Moving on to the next one, consider the following statements. The Constitution of India defines the basic structure, right, in terms of federalism, secularism, fundamental rights and democracy. The statement is outrightly wrong, because it is not the constitution which defines. The constitution nowhere defines the basic structure. In fact, it is an innovation that is brought by the Supreme Court of India to safeguard the constitution itself. So it is defined basic structure, and it's an evolving nature. So this is wrong. The Constitution of India provides for judicial review to safeguard the citizens' liberties and preserve the ideals on which the constitution is based. This is right. The best example would be Article 13 and 32. Fine. So the answer for this is P. Moving on to the next question. One common agreement between Gandhism and Marxism, right? Again, this is a philosophical nature. The question is of philosophical nature here. The common theme between Gandhian Gandhism and the Marxism is stateless society. That is what both of them fought. The Gandhian Ram Rajya is nothing but right, Marxism's philosophy. Right, both are one and the same. So the answer for this is A. Nothing much to explain here. Moving on to the next question. In the context of India, which one of the following is the characteristic appropriate to bureaucracy? And the answer for this is D. That is an agency for implementation of public policy. Again, this is commonsensical, right? Very straightforward question. So the answer for this is nothing but implementation of public policy, that is D. The preamble to the Constitution of India is, so this, though it seems easy, right, the options, but the options are quite confusing here, right? So I would say it is a moderate level question here, and going by the options, a preamble is a part of the Constitution, yes, but has no legal effect. This is also right. Right, let's keep it. Next, not a part of the Constitution, this is outrightly wrong, and it became a part of the Constitution in Keshwananda Bharti case, right? And of course, it is not justiciable in the court, right? It cannot be legally enforceable. Going to the next part, see, a part of the Constitution, this is also right, and has same legal effect of any other part, no, because it is not legally justiciable. So these two options are gone. Coming to the D option, that is a part of the Constitution but has no legal effect independently of other parts. So what does this statement say, right? What does this statement say is, yes, this is the part of the Constitution, the first statement is right, but has no legal effect independently of the other part. It means when you treat the preamble independently, it cannot be legally enforceable. But there are many instances where the courts have gone back to the values that is enshrined in the preamble, and they have given more clarity in the judgments or the laws. So that is the meaning of a part of the Constitution but has no legal effect independently of other parts, right? So this particular statement is right here. Clear? Moving on to the next question, with reference to the provisions contained in part 4, that is DPSP, of the Constitution, which of the following statements are correct? They shall be enforceable by courts. No. They shall not be enforceable by courts. This is right. Of course, they are mutually exclusive statements here. The principles laid down in this part are to influence the making of the laws. I've already given examples like Article 40's 73rd Panchayat Raj system, right? So 2 and 3 is, so D is the answer here. Moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements. According to the Constitution of India, a person who is eligible to vote can be made a minister in a state for 6 months, even if she is not a member of either member of the legislature of the state. This particular right law is mentioned in Article 164, and especially with respect to not being a member of the house but still being elected as a minister or appointed as a minister, it falls under 164 fourth part of it, right? Prima facie, when you read the statement, it seems to be true, but there when you try to apply your logic, saying that eligible to vote means even 18 years, but to become a minister, because one of the qualification is either should be a member of either the lower house or the upper house. So going with that, so when you look at the Lok Sabha, it should be 25 years of age, right? When it is Rajya Sabha, it is 30 years of age, right? But here, according to Article 164 part 4, doesn't mention this particular provision here. So that is the reason there is little bit of confusion here. So this can be kept on hold. And here, according to the RPA Act, a person convicted of criminal offence and sentenced to imprisonment for 5 years is permanently disqualified. This he or she cannot be permanent. There's nothing like permanent disqualification. Once that person is released from the jail, that is after 5 years, another 6 years is given. From the day is released, after this 6 years, he or she can still again stand for election. Right? This statement is, of course, permanently wrong, right? Outrightly wrong. But this one, there's a doubt here. So even we are not able to take up a final call here. So we have even mentioned in our answer key, it can be either A or D here. Fine. See, there are 4 questions like this where there's an ambiguity and we have given both the options. Clear? Consider the following statement. The President of India can summon a session of the Parliament at such place he or she thinks fit. This is right. Here also it is under Article 85(1). The Constitution of India provides for 3 sessions. The Constitution, see, this is what reading between the lines is very important in polity, because sometimes it says in Indian context, sometimes it says according to the Indian Constitution, in the Indian polity. So this you should be very aware of. Right? The Constitution of India provides, it is not the Constitution of India that provides 3 sessions, right? It is the Parliamentary Convention, right? So this is wrong. This is right. There is no minimum number of days that the Parliament is required to meet in a year. Of course, this is also right. So it just says that between 2 meetings, it shouldn't be more than 6 months, right? That is the only thing that is said. So it is there's no mention of minimum number of days, right? So the answer for this is 1 and 3. That is C here. Fine. So 30th is C. Moving on to the 32nd question. So Rajya Sabha has equal powers with Lok Sabha in amending the constitution, right? Because here there is nothing like concept of joint sitting here. Fine. This is more related to exclusive or more powers are given to Rajya Sabha here, right? So the answer for this is amending the constitution. Let's move on to the next question, that is 33rd one. In reference to MP-LAD scheme, MP-LAD funds must be used to create durable assets, right? So here, see, even I have mentioned this in my previous videos as well, that always knowledge should be given first importance, then common sense, and finally the elimination techniques, right? So here also, if I have to say here, some students would have got even confused with the word must here, because this is too positive a statement or too extreme a statement. But here, though it is used, it says it should be given to durable assets only. So the first statement is right here. A specified portion of each MP's fund must benefit SC/ST population. This is also right. MP-LAD funds are sanctioned on the yearly basis. Yes, that is also right. And the unused funds cannot be carried forward. It can be carried forward. So this is wrong. The district authority must inspect at least 10% of all the works under implementation of every policy. this is right. So the answer for this is 1, 2 and 4, that is D for Delhi. See here, though this question might seem simple, but I would rate it as difficult here, because why do I say that is this particular statement, because when we were also marking the, I mean we were also researching the answers for it, I initially thought using my common sense that okay, why only 10%, right? It should be either 100% or 0%, right? So the because of this particular option, this can be considered to be a moderate or difficult level. Clear? So this is the thought process that will be going in a student's mind. Yeah, moving on to the next question. Which one of the following categories of fundamental rights incorporates protection against untouchability as a form of discrimination? If you just talk about untouchability, it is Article 17, right? So, but here article exploitation, it is more to do with article, I mean, the child labor part of it. It's not right to freedom, not right to constitutional right, it is right to equality. D is the answer. So, right to equality talks about prohibiting any kind of discrimination. It can be caste, right? It can be gender, right? Any kind of discrimination, right? It is clearly said, it is mentioned here. Fine. So, let's move on to the next question. In India, separation of judiciary from executive is enjoined by Article 50, that falls under DPSP. Fine. A constitutional government, this was asked I think in 2014-15 times also, right? 37th question here, it is nothing but limited government. It puts restrictions on the government, that is called as constitutional government. Other than the fundamental rights, which of the following parts of the Constitution of India reflects the principles or provisions of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? Yes, preamble, right? Of course it does. DPSP also it does. Some students would have had doubts with fundamental duties also, right? There are provisions in the fundamental duties which also talks about universal, which falls under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Here the statement also has been mentioned clearly. It says the fundamental duties enshrined in the Constitution of India contained in Part 4A are in consonance with Article 29 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the fraternity concept, all that, right? All that can fall under fundamental duties as well. So the answer is D here. Yeah. So now we are done with 16 questions of polity, right? So the next section that I'll be discussing is on the science and tech section. Fine. In that, in science and tech, I think there are 11 questions that was asked. Before starting off with the questions, I want to say the approach that you should have for the science and tech portion of it, right? So when you're studying science and tech, the structure that you need to follow is you should give importance to the properties or the characteristics of it, and the application and the source. These are the three things that you need to follow when you're reading any science and tech particular topics. And also if you see the basics were asked, like what is this pluripotent cells, and many questions came from genetic engineering, right? The other part that I need to stress here is the latest developments in terms of wireless communication, right? Or even nanotubes. So applications of it were asked. Clear? So let's move on to the first question. With reference to carbon nanotubes, consider the following statements. So you must be knowing the importance of carbon nanotubes, because it has a wide range of activities, from energy storage to what it can also be used in bulletproof technology. It can be used in sensors. It has a wide range of applications. So most of the times the options given would be right, but still let's get into it. They can be used as carriers of drugs, of course, right? That is one of the main function of it. They are made into artificial blood capillaries for an injured part of human body. They can be made, of course. This is also, they can, as I said, one of the function is their act, also the application is in, you find it in sensors, right? So these three statements, you are right. Carbon nanotubes are is it biodegradable or not is a question. But if going by this these three statements, where do you find 1, 2, 3 is nothing but in this one, right? Whether you know fourth one or not, still you can go with this answer. Of course, it is biodegradable. It can be degraded by enzymes of bacteria, fungi, etc. Clear? So I would rate this as easy. Yeah. Coming to the next one, consider the following activities: spraying pesticides on a crop field, inspecting the craters of active volcanoes, collecting breath samples from spouting whales for DNA analysis. At the present level of technology, which of the above activities can be successfully carried out by the drones? So basically, the drones are nothing but the eyes of the sky, where it can detect anything that is happening on the surface of the earth or on the sea. Right? It is basically, it is just like an invigilator or supervisor which looks into the activities that is going on. It also helps in weather forecasting, then wildlife monitoring, huge again a wide range of applications, then geomapping, disaster management, all that, right? So it is like where people cannot go through, go and that is where the drones help them in overseeing things, right? So this is the main funda behind drones. So going with that, of course, spraying pesticides on a crop field can be done using drones. Inspecting the craters of active volcanoes where people cannot go there, that can be done through drones. Collecting breath samples from spouting whales of DNA analysis also can be done, where the whales come out for breathing, right? That time also that can be analyzed, that can be used for DNA analysis. So all the three, most of the times all the three options are right itself here, and there are options, there are justifications also given here. So this three, this is also again an easier one. Going to the third one, this is either you know or you do not know. So if you know it, it is one of the easiest questions to attempt. The experiment will employ a trio spacecraft flying in formation of the shape of an equilateral triangle, all that. This is nothing but D, that is Ewald Ellis. So especially this concepts, right? It came when during the uh, uh, 2015 gravitational waves, right? When they were detected, right? So the concepts like LIGO, LISA Pathfinder, ELISA experiments, right? All these were in news. So anything that is in news, just be aware of it and make a note of it. Consider the following statements: genetic changes can be introduced in cells that produce eggs or sperms of prospective parent. This is right. Especially this is true when you talk about the family history of a particular disease, right? What they'll do is, when there's a family history of a particular disease, this genetic changes can be induced and this can be prevented. So this is right. A person's genome can be edited before the birth at the early embryonic stage. Yeah, this is also true. The best example here would be China's example, where they've gone for CRISPR babies. I suppose it is CRISPR, CRISPR, CRISPR babies. So they're nothing but tailor-made babies, right? It is like whatever qualities they want. For example, the best example, I mean, that I can give you is wherein X-Men, right? They have supernatural powers. So if you want any particular characteristic that you want to fit in the child or find in the child, so they can make childs like that. So to that extent they can go. They can even go to an extent where they can create people like the features with Indian features, and they can leave them as spy as well. So they can do anything as such. That is the extent that Chinese can go to, right? So this is the second one. This is also right. Third one, human induced pluripotent stem cells can be injected into the embryo of pig. This is also right. The best example would be the Japan example, where they have tried. So any missing organ, like for example pancreas, right? That experiment also was done. In the embryo, the changes were done. The changes were induced, and this experiment was carried in pigs, rats, mice, right? So the statement is also right. So the answer is 1, 2, 3. Right. So here I would still say this question is, I mean, I would say that this question comes under difficulty level. Right. Yeah, so it is, if you do not know, you would have, I mean, you should have skipped this particular question. Moving on to the next one, what is the importance of pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, that is PCV? Right, these vaccines are effective against pneumonia as well as meningitis and sepsis. This is also right. Dependence on antibiotics that are not effective against drug resistant bacteria can be reduced. Let us keep it on hold. These vaccines have no side effects. See, there's nothing, no vaccine or no medicine in the world that will never have side effects or no allergic. So this is an extreme statement. So outrightly it is wrong. So 3 is wrong. I'll strike out 3. 3 is wrong. So you're left with 1 or 1 and 2 only. So basically vaccines are the ones that will actually completely make sure that that particular infection or disease will not occur again, right? So that is the reason, going with that law. So dependence on antibiotics. Antibiotics only, like, so heals that person for a while, and again that person can get affected with that same disease once again. So that is what the antibiotics do, but whereas vaccine can go to an extent where the complete disease can be nullified, right? Example, polio vaccines, all that. So going with that logic, dependence on antibiotics that are not effective against bacteria can be reduced. This is also true. So your answer here is 1 and 2. So using your common sense also you can get this answer, right? This particular statement, right? I'll put this under moderate level. Which of the following statements are correct regarding the general difference between plant and animal cells? So this year they've gone into the biology part. So I think students would have skipped reading biology, especially these days. So they've gone to the basic question of it, but still you still have a rough idea where you can remember it in a school days, the membranes, then plasma membranes, the cells, cellulose, all that, right? Still you can answer this question. Plant cells have cellulose, cell walls, whilst animal cells do not. Yes, cell walls are present only in plant cells. The first statement is right. Plant cells do not have plasma membrane unlike animal cells. Both plant cells and animal cells have plasma membrane. So this is wrong. Mature plant cells have one large vacuole whilst animal cells have many small vacuoles. This is right. So the answer for this is 1 and 3, that is here. In the context of recent advances in human reproductive technology, pro-nuclear transfer is used for, right? Pro-nuclear transfer, I would say that this, I would say this comes under the difficult level of it. It is nothing but the 3-parent baby phenomena of it. If I go with that, if I know the concept itself, I should be answering it, because here this is the both A and D, right? It is related to the pro-nuclear transfer, right? So the first statement explains the process of it, how the pro-nuclear energy is transfer happens, that is fertilization of egg in vitro by the donor sperm, and prevention of mitochondrial is use of this particular technology. So the answer should be D here. Right. Now going to the 18th one. With the present state of development, artificial intelligence can be effectively which of the following? So what is artificial intelligence? It is nothing like but machines thinking and acting like humans. If to put it in very simple terms, it is nothing but machines thinking and acting like humans. So simulation of human intelligence in machines is nothing but artificial intelligence. So here, bringing down electric consumption in industrial units, this is right. Creating meaningful short stories, this can be kept on hold. So basically what I'm trying to say is, when the thought process that I'll be going through when I'm solving this particular question, disease diagnosis, of course this is right. Text to speech conversion, this is also right. So 1, 3 and 4. So 1, 3 and 4 I can find it here. 1, 3 and 4 I can find it here. So here I'm left with this 2 and 5. So some people have said B as the answer, and but what we would vouch for D as the answer, because there were news that had come that this AI wrote a poem that's good enough to think even artificial intelligence improves the power transmission. So going by with these two things, I go for D as the answer. So there are students who have commented on the website as well, saying that at the present state of development, artificial intelligence can effectively do which of the following, right? So they've stressed on this, but still what I would go for is the D as the option here, because there are also proofs mentioned here. With reference to visible light communication technology, which of the following statements are correct? See this, if you follow the trend, before it Li-Fi was asked, right? Then before that Bluetooth, right? So wireless communication questions keep coming. So here with reference to this I would grade it as difficult level. Fine. So VLC is nothing but the transmission of data using visible light. So transmission of data using visible light is nothing but VLC technology. So uses electromagnetic spectrum wavelength 375, right? This is right. VLC is known as long range. Okay, this is wrong because it is not long range, it is medium range. So as I said, this is difficult level. So only if you know the, if you have gone through this VLC concept, only you can answer this. So if 2 is wrong, going with that logic, 2 eliminate 2, 2, 2. So the answer is 1, 3 and 4. But either you know that or do not know the other options, the answer would be C here. And the other thing is VLC has no electromagnetic interference because it does not depend on the frequency. Fine. Moving to the next one with reference to the blockchain technology, consider the following statements. So again, blockchain technology has a wide range of applications, and especially where the data is huge, where there's huge amount of data transaction that keeps happening, the big data, all that, the blockchain technology is used. Fine. It's a public ledger that everyone can inspect, but which no single user controls. This is right. The structure and design of blockchain is such that all the data in it are about cryptocurrency only. This is false because there is a huge range of applications. It can be used in IoTs, Internet of Things, real estate, healthcare, law enforcement, Bitcoin. So many applications are there. So this is wrong. So if I have to try to eliminate this, this is gone, this is gone. I'm left with 1 and 3. So very tricky, very close options they have given. So moving on to an application that depends on basic features of blockchain can be developed without anybody's permission. Here see, there are two kinds of things that in blockchain. It says permissible and non-permissible ones. Though the most viable and the ones that is in vogue is the what do you say, non-permissible ones, but still applications that depend on basic features of blockchain can be developed without anybody's permission. This is very minute, but still the possibility is there. So that is the reason here the answer for this is 1 and 3, that is D here, right? Am I clear? In India, under cyber insurance for individuals, yeah, which of the following benefits are generally covered? Again, this can be of moderate to difficult level, uh, because this goes to the inner intricacies of the cyber insurance policy. It says cost of restoration of the computer system in case of malware disruption to access one's computer. Yeah, the repairing part is taken care when there's a malware that gets infected. Cost of a new computer if some miscreant willfully damages it, if provided so, this we can keep it on hold. Cost of hiring a specialized consultant to minimize the loss in case of cyber extortion, right? Hiring a consultant is also true. That cost is all taken care. Cost of defense in the court. So if you want to pay your lawyer, that also is taken care uh, by the cyber insurance. So this is right, right? Then the first, third, and fourth, 1, 3, and 4 is this one, right? This one, the second statement is on hold. So even in our answers, what we have done is it can be either 1, 3, and 4, or it can be 1, 2, 3, and 4, because nowhere the concrete explanation was given. So it can either be 1, 3, and 4, or it can be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is one option where there's an ambiguity again. So moving on to the next one. So now we are done with two sections, that is the science and tech part and the polity. So next we'll be going to the environment part. Fine. Yeah, coming to the environment, there were around 16 questions, right, that had come from environment portion, and the other part is the environment also has like overlapping topics with geography, right? So in environment, the major portion that was focused was the pollution part, the acts from Wildlife Protection and Environment Protection Act, irrigation, the national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, the eco-friendly agriculture, so sustainability factors. So these were the questions that were asked. Moving on to the first question, which of the following are the reasons or factors for exposure to benzene pollution? So benzene is benzene is a byproduct of the forest fires, the automobile exhaust, even when you smoke, right? Even the vanished wood also contains benzene, right? And it's carcinogenic. So going with that, automobile exhaust, yeah, tobacco, wood burning, varnished wooden furniture, so forth. Fifth one, you may know it or may not know it. Going with that, all the four, where do you find all the four is this one? Fine. It's an easy question here with reference to India's desert national park. Which of the following statements are correct? It is spread over two districts, that is Jaisalmer and Barmer in Rajasthan. This is right. there are no human habitation inside the park. This is wrong. Why? Uh, because of the huge population that we have, and most of the time there are issues, right, with human habitation inside the park, and that is the reason also we have this Forest Rights Act as well, right? The issue between the people moving into the core area, or the other even staying in the buffer zone, that is always in news, and that is always there, the issue, and this particular statement is wrong. Third one, it is one of the natural habitats of great Indian bustard. This is the only place where you find that. So this is true. So going with that, 1 and 3, that is C here, right? So here again, it can be an easy to moderate level again here. Moving on to the next one, the 58th one. Consider the following statements. 36% of the districts are classified as overexploited or critical by the Central Groundwater Authority. You can keep this on hold. CGWA was formed under Environment Protection Act. This is true. India is the largest area under groundwater irrigation. This is also true. So going with that, there's nothing like 1, 2, 3 here. So 2 and 3 is here. So going with that, you find B as the answer, right? This is like, I would classify it as moderate question, and largest irrigation under, because 67% of the total irrigation in India is nothing but the groundwater irrigation, right? Next comes China and followed by USA. Let's move on to the next one. Among the following tiger reserves, which one has the largest area under critical tiger habitat? It is Nagarjuna Sagar Srisailam. I think it is close to 2,500. Whereas Sundarbans, I think it is close to 1,600 to 1,700. Right? So the answer for this is C. Easy and a straightforward question. 61st, if a particular plant species is placed under the Schedule 6, there's 1 to 6 schedules of Wildlife Protection Act. Each section tells about the criticality of that particular species, right, and what should be done. So here it says, what is the implication? A license is required to cultivate that plant. You can keep it on hold. Such a plant cannot be cultivated. In fact, Schedule 6, it actually says such a plant cannot be cultivated. Till here it is right actually, but under any circumstances. So that is the reason the loophole here is, most of the students don't read the complete sentences. That is the reason I keep stressing on this. Read the complete sentence no matter what. Don't be overconfident. So here the first part of the statement is right, but under any circumstances, this is too vague a statement, so I can say it is wrong. It is genetically modified. Such a plant is invasive and harmful. This is actually called as vermins here. Vermins. So the answer for this is A. A license is required to cultivate the plant. Though it cannot be cultivated, but having the license you can cultivate. I think this was in news, especially when that red sanders wood, that was because they said that the minister said that if it is placed, red sanders is placed under Schedule 6, then it would require a license. So once you have a license, you can start planting it. That is what it says. So the answer is A. 2064, according to the India's national policy, right? All these national policies, you should keep the check on that. What is India's nuclear policy? What is India's water policy? Right? Make a note of all such policies. According to the India's national policy of biofuels, which of the following can be used as raw materials for the production of biofuels? Right? This is a factual question. I would put it under difficulty level, because difficult. I would rate it as difficult, because either you know it or do not know it. Here actually groundnut seeds do not come under, right? So 3 is gone. So wherever 3 is there, I think it is gone. So but here, going by the elimination method, this looks easier, because if you know that groundnuts do not come under that, then the answer for that is A. Yeah. Let's move on to the next question. Which one of the following statement best describes the term social cost? Right, what cost that you will be paying to the society for the damage that you have caused. So that is the meaning of social cost of carbon. It's a measure in monetary value of the long-term damage. Of course, the long-term damage that you are doing to the society in a given year. This can also be right. Requirement of fossil fuels for a country to provide goods and services to its citizens based on the burning of the fuels. Efforts put in by a climate refugee. No. contribution of an individual person, it is not related to individual person as a, this is also wrong. So the answer for that is A. Right, 65th is A. So I would still say this would come under difficulty level, right, under difficulty level. Moving on to the next question, with reference to the solar water pumps, consider the following statement. Solar power can be used for running surface pumps and not submersible pumps. There's nothing like that. It basically, what you have to understand here is solar water pumps do not require any fuel or electricity to operate, and the major function of this solar pumps is to extract water. So with that funda, there's nothing like it can run surface pumps and not the submersible pumps. So this is wrong. Solar power can be used for running centrifugal pumps and not the ones with piston. There's nothing like that, so, right? So as I've already explained, the answer for that is D, neither. Fine. So let's move to the next one. With reference to the Indian elephants, consider the following statement. The leader of an elephant group is female. Yes, because the male elephants are isolated. See, this is a question that you can answer through common sense. Clear? The maximum gestation period can be 22 months. You can keep it on hold, you do not know. An elephant can be normally go on calving till the age of 40 years only. This can be kept on hold. Among the states in India, the highest elephant population is Kerala. It's not Kerala, it is Karnataka. So this is wrong. So 4 is wrong. Right, 1 is right. 1 is right. So with that as the logic, even if you do not know the other option, you can get A as the answer here. Right. Like moving on to the next question. Which of the following protected areas are located in the Kaveri Basin? This I had mentioned in my initial discussion as well. This was like the Papikonda National Park was asked in a previous year question paper, and Papikonda National Park comes in Andhra Pradesh, and this is Godavari River. So this does not, right? So it is in the Godavari River. So that is the reason this particular this particular national park is wrong here. So going with that, 2 gone, 2 gone, and Nagarula National Park is of course Kaveri. It falls under Kaveri with that option. Answer is C. Fine. So I'm going very fast so that we can finish it off right quickly. That is one. And the second thing, as I said, factual ones I'll be just going quickly, and whereas where explanations are required, I'll emphasize more on that. Especially this will happen in economics, where more emphasis should be given on concepts, right? So moving on to the next one, with reference to India's biodiversity, Ceylon frogmouth, coppersmith, barbet, grey-chinned minivet, right? Or even white throated redstart, right? Are nothing but, see, at least barbet, minivet also you could have heard, even redstart, right? When you're reading newspapers, you would have heard this. So that is nothing but birds here. Clear? Moving on to the next question. Which one of the following protected areas is well known for the conservation of a subspecies of Indian swamp deer, Barsinga, that thrives well on hard ground and is exclusively carnivorous, right? Barsinga, in fact, it is the national animal of Madhya Pradesh also. So that is nothing but Kanha National Park. Clear? So let's move on to the next one. Which of the following are the most likely places to find musk deer? Basically, there is nothing but, whenever you have read, it is nothing but Himalayan musk deer. So going with that concept, going with that logic, right? If you find Ascot Wildlife Sanctuary, even if you know or do not know, just keep it on hold. Gangotri National Park, right? Uttarakhand, Himalaya. So you can find musk deer here. Right? The keyword would be here, as I said, Himalayas here. Kishanpur, it's in UP. Manas National Park, so it is gone because it is in Assam. So this is gone. So 4 is gone, 4 is gone, 4 is gone here. You're left with 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. So 2, though, of course, it is right. So whether it is, as I said, it's UP. So Ascot Wildlife Sanctuary. I think this was in news as well. So it is in, again, Uttarakhand. So the answer for this is 1 and 2. Fine. Moving on to the next question. In rural road construction, the use of which of the following is preferred for ensuring environmental sustainability or to reduce the carbon footprint, right? Copper slag, yes. Cold mix asphalt technology, fine. Geotextiles, hot mix asphalt technology. See here, both of them cannot be. It is actually mutually exclusive. Either it can be cold or it can be hot. So Portland cement. So let's say, let's go with 2. Let's say 2 is right. So if 2 is right, this will be right, this will be right. So these 2 are wrong, right? If we say 4 is right, we will be left with this 2. Copper lacto is right. So the first one is always right. So going with that logic, 1 is right here, right? 1 is right, 2 is also right here, right? And geotextiles. This was in news here. So this is through knowledge. So that is nothing but A is the answer. Again, this is a difficult level. So as I said, copper lacto is sure. So when you're going with the next options, it can be either cold mix asphalt technology or hot mix asphalt technology, right? And copper slag does not go with 4th option at all. So that is the reason we can say this is wrong. So this is the way you eliminate also, and this answer is A, 98. Fine. And moving on to the 99th question in environment, consider the following statements. Yeah, this is what I was mentioning. The ash content is observed in Indian coal. High ash content. This is one of the options also given in, I think again 2015 14 times paper. So this is right. So going with that, if you've gone through the previous year paper, but all B, C, D contains 3, right? So I don't think it is helping you much here. So the first statement, coal ash contains arsenic, lead and mercury. The first statement is right, 1 and 3. 1 and 3 you can find it in this only. So answer is D. So this part, whether you know it or not, but still this is a very easy option given. Coal-fired power plants release sulfur and oxides of nitrogen. These are the ones which will actually contribute to acid rain. Fine. Let's move on to the next question. What is the use of biochar? So if you know this concept of biochar, then you can answer this, or else this will fall under difficulty level. Clear? So biochar can be used as a part of growing medium, as a growing medium in vertical farming, right? You can keep it on hold. When biochar is a part of the growing medium, it promotes the growth of nitrogen fixing microorganisms. This is true because the nitrogen fixing the nitrogen becomes very important for the growth of the plant. So it is not in the soluble format. The nitrogen fixing bacteria convert into a soluble format. So that is the importance of nitrogen fixing bacteria. And biochar is nothing but a charcoal like substance that's made by burning the agricultural and the forest wastes. It basically the biomass. When you burn the biomass, the end product that you get is known as biochar, and it is done in a closed environment. So that is about biochar. So this statement is right. When biochar is a part of the growing medium, it enables the growing medium to retain water for a longer time. In fact, these are the advantages of it, right? It improves the plant growth, the yield of it, and it is grown where this the soil quality is also not good. So where that is the place where biochar can be used. Right? Going with that logic, where the biochar can be used as a part of growing medium in vertical farming as well. Right? So the answer for that is 1, 2, 3. All of the statements are right. And as I said, only if you know the concept of biochar, then you can answer this particular question. And vertical farming is nothing but a farming that is done in a closed, controlled environment, right? The basic essence of this vertical farming is to optimize the plant growth. Clear? Yeah. Moving on to the next question. Okay. And so now we are done with the environment section of 2019 prelims. Right. Moving on to the next question, next section, that is geography. So what I've done is I've included agriculture in geography. So in geography, the soil, climate, and irrigation part of it is included. Including all that, there were 13 questions from geography and agriculture. Fine. Moving on to the first question. What are the advantages of fertigation? Again, this one, yeah, no, if you know this, it becomes an easy question, or else the level of difficulty here would be D here. So, what is this fertigation? Fertigation is nothing but the application of fertilizers or injection of fertilizers and the water soluble products into an irrigation system. This is called fertigation, right? So, going with that, it says again here students had commented different options here. So, controlling the alkalinity of irrigation water is possible, and we have got the proof also. Increases soil nutrient availability, reducing the excess of alkalinity, because it reduces the pH, right? When the pH is reduced, the alkalinity level becomes less and more nutrients are available. So that is what it says. So going with that, controlling alkalinity of irrigation water is possible. Actually, go by the elimination technology. The word possible means that all the 4 statements should have been right, but in the options, if we go, there's nothing like all the 4 options are right. Clear? So here this one is right. Efficient application of rock phosphate, right? This is wrong. Fine. Increased availability of nutrients, as I said, this is right. Reduction in leaching of chemical nutrients is possible. This is also right. So the answer for this is 1, 3 and 4. That is nothing but C. Answer for this is C. Right, let's move on to the next question. Consider the following minerals. Fine. Bentonite, chromite, kyanite, sillimanite. In India, which of the following officially is the major minerals? Of course, chromite is one of the major minerals, right? In fact, I think going by previous year questions also, you will get an answer here if you would have gone through the previous questions. So where do you find 2 here? 2 is here and 2 is here. So you are left with this. So these are the questions where the 50-50 chances, right? It is better that you take chances and arrive at the answer, right? Because even say out of 10, even if you are getting 6 right and 4 wrong, fine, you are left with net score of 4. So that is the advantage of going with 50-50 options, right? So chromite is there, right? Then is there, sillimanite is also there, right? And kyanite is also there. So 2, 3, 4, that is nothing but D here. Fine. So this answer for this is D. Again, this comes under difficult level. Moving on to the next question, with reference to ocean mean temperature, which of the following statement is correct? Right, this is one of the tough questions. Again, you should have left this question. So going reading the statements, it says OMT is measured up to a depth of 26 degrees isotherm, which is, it's not 129 meters. It is somewhere around 50 to 100 meters. So this is wrong. OMT collected during January-March can be used in assessing whether the amount of rainfall in monsoon will be less or more than the certain long term mean. This is right. So the answer for that is B. Fine. So as I said, the difficulty level is higher. Moving on to the next question. Siachen Glacier. Siachen Glacier is situated to the, it's a direct question, it's north of Nubra Valley. Clear? So it's an easy question. Moving on to the next one. With reference to chemical fertilizers in India, right, consider the following statements. At present, the retail price of chemical fertilizers is market driven and not administered by the government. This is wrong because urea is still controlled by the government. Fine. So one is wrong. So you are left with this two. Ammonia, which is an input of urea, is produced from natural gas. This is right. Sulfur, which is a raw material for phosphoric acid fertilizer, is a byproduct of oil. This is also right. So the answer is B. Consider the following statements. 15, the proper geography question here. Jet streams occur in the northern hemisphere only. This is wrong. Only some cyclones develop an eye. Of course, this is true because the tropical cyclones develop an eye, whereas the temperate cyclones does not. the temperature inside the eye of the cyclone is nearly 10% lesser. It is not lesser, it is in fact the hottest region of the uh, cyclone year, so it should have been more. So outrightly it is wrong. So the answer for that is C. Clear? Yeah, moving on to the next question. 66th question. With reference to the pulse production in India, consider the following statements. Black gram can be cultivated as both kharif and rabi crops. Say you do not know, just keep it on hold. Fine. Green gram alone accounts for nearly half the pulse production. This is wrong because there are different grams: black gram, green gram, then chicken peat. In fact, India is the largest producer of that. Then I think it is tur dal, all that. So there's so many different kinds of pulses. So one particular gram cannot account for half the pulse production. Going by that logic, two statement is wrong. So 2 is here, 2 is here, 2 is here. So answer is 1. Even if you know the other two or not, you can arrive at the answer. So this is the elimination method that you can use. Yeah, moving on to the next question. The crop is subtropical in nature. A hard frost is injurious to it. It requires at least 210 frost degree days, 50 to 100 centimeter rainfall, all that. Light, well-drained soil. This is one of the direct statement that has been picked up, and it is from one of the NCRTs. It clearly says cotton is the one that requires 210 frost-free days. Clear? It's a direct and an easy question. Right. Moving on to the next one. With reference to the current trends in the cultivation of sugarcane in India, a substantial saving in seed material is made with when bud chip seedlings are raised in a nursery and transplanted in the main field. When direct planting of sets is done, the germination percentage is better with single budded sets as compared to sets with many buds. If bad weather conditions prevail when sets are directly, if you actually look into these 4 options, it's quite a difficult or a very difficult question indeed, right? It's better that you should have left this question. Right, the answer for this is C here, 1 and 4. Clear? Moving on to the next question. In the context of India, which one of the following is considered to be the practice of eco-friendly agriculture? Right, crop diversification, yes. Legume intensification, yes, because it helps in nitrogen fixation. I've already mentioned nitrogen is very essential for the growth of the plants. 10 centimeter use, say suppose you do not know, you can leave it. Vertical farming, as I've already said, it is grown in a vertical farming is nothing but farming that is done in a closed controlled base, not closed, the better word would be controlled environment where optimization resources for the growth of the plant, right? So this is also true, this is also eco-friendly. So you know 1, 2 and 4, 1, 2 and 4 is, so you either you know 3 or not, do not know the word, you still can arrive at the answer. That is the reason I had also mentioned this. Never ever leave reading options, right? Even through options also you can get the answer as well, right? Let's move on to the next question. Consider the following pairs: a river and flows into it. Mekong, it is not Andaman Sea, it is South China Sea, right? One is wrong, so one is gone here, one is gone here. So always what you have to do is when you get an answer that is outrightly you are 100% sure that it is right or 100% sure that is wrong, always go with elimination so that you are left with 50-50. So once it is 50-50, there are more likely chances that you can get it right. Clear? Thames, Irish Sea, you can leave it. If you do not know Volga, that is African, Volga, Caspian Sea. Sorry, Zambezi is African Sea. Indian, so 4 is outrightly right. So wherever you find 4, that is nothing but C. So just by using the method of elimination, right, you can get the answer as C. Clear? And basic common sense. The steel slag can be the material for which one of the following, right? So construction of base road, yes. Steel slag is nothing but a byproduct of steel, right? It is produced when the molten steel is separated from the impurities, right? So that is where you get the steel slag. Construction of base road, yes. Improvement of agriculture soil, say suppose you do not know, you can leave it. Production of cement, of course it is this. So 1 in 3, you know it is right. So 1 in 3, yeah, 1 in 3, and even improvement of agriculture soil also. So the answer here is 1, 2 and 3. Fine. All the 3 statements are right. Yeah, so we are done with environment section. So we'll be moving on to the next question section, that is economics, and what I've done is, as I said, market based agriculture, investment related to agriculture, all that I've put under economics itself, right? There are 18 questions this year, and this was one of the section where you could have got the answers right. Apart from polity, this was other section, right, from the static core subject. Yeah, moving to the first question. If another global crisis happens in the near future, which of the following actions, policies are most likely to give immunity? So basically, how do you prevent India to go into the next, prevent it from getting into the next financial crisis? Right? Basically, how do you provide immunity to India? So not depending on, so short term borrowings, this is right. Anything that is short term or foreign based is uh, leads to a lot of volatility. It always you should go for long term investment, because what will happen is, when it is short term, when there's a fear of something going bankrupt, or when there's a fear of some crisis, right? So that these are the borrowings that are taken away first, right? The short term borrowings, or even the foreign companies or foreign banks, all that will come under the same thing. Opening up to more foreign banks, right? Not depending on where this is right. Opening to this is wrong. As I have already mentioned, the more you open, the more it becomes vulnerable, right? Then maintaining the full capacity, full capital account convertibility. Capital account convertibility is nothing but I mean, full capital account convertibility is nothing but converting your entire rupee into dollars, or dollar into rupees, whatever the foreign currency it is. So when you give full capital account, till now India does not have full capital account convertibility. This is one of the sound reason why, because when such crisis happens, what will happen is, whichever foreign country that has invested in India, the entire money is taken back. That is basically the complete capital flow is there's a outflow of the capital. So when there's no full capital convertibility, at least certain amount is left, so that can be used for us to sustain the period. So the answer for this is right. This one, maintaining full capital, this is also wrong. So the answer for this is A. See, in economics, the other thing that I want to mention, it is not about mugging up things. It is more about conceptual understanding. If your concepts are good, very sound, then this is one of the easiest subject to revise, right? But to get to that stage, of course, it takes a lot of time. Uh, it is not like polity or history where you keep reading 4 times, 5 times, where things becomes very clear. Economics is more about trying to understand like basics, like what is inflation, what is this repo rate, what is monetary policy, what is fiscal policy, right? What is this import export, right? Even if you look at it, this is an applied knowledge. If your concepts are clear, this I would rate it as moderate level, right? If your application of economics is sound, then you can get this answer easily. Fine. Moving on to the next one. If you withdraw 1 lakh in cash from your demand deposit account to your bank, the immediate effect on aggregate money supply in the economy will be. So first of all, for this you need to know what is this aggregate money supply, right? It is nothing but all the currency and the liquid instruments that you have in the market, or you have in the country. So the other way of putting up in simple terms is nothing but cash plus demand deposits. So what you're doing here is 1 lakh cash is you're withdrawing 1 lakh cash from your, so which was in DD, your demand deposit, right, which was in bank. Basically you are withdrawing this, and the same 1 lakh which was year earlier, it is coming to this side. It is just exchanging the hands from the bank to the person here, right? So what is happening is there's no difference at all. There's no increase or decrease. The money that was here earlier with the bank is getting shifted to the person here. So it is nothing but it's a zero sum game. That is nothing but it leaves unchanged. So this is the meaning of it, right? And the other critical word here, it says immediate effect, because after that you can give the cash for an interest or whatever. You can make money from it. You can invest in shares, all that. But here it says the immediate effect. Because of this keyword, it says nothing but the money has moved from one hand to the other. And so it leaves the aggregate. When you look at the aggregate money supply, it remains unchanged. Clear? Moving on to the next question. The golden tranche, right, refers to a credit system granted by IMF. So when a country is a member of it, it acts like a subscription fees, right? So the answer it's a direct question and it's a very easy one, right? The answer for that is D. Moving on to the next question. Along with budget, the finance minister also places other documents before the parliament, which includes the macro framework statement. The aforesaid statement is presented because this is mandated by provisions of fiscal responsibility. Here, in fact, the fiscal responsibility says 3 such documents have to be placed. That is nothing but the medium term fiscal policy, the fiscal policy strategy statement, and macroeconomic framework policy statement. In fact, this was covered in our Babapedia as well. So this is the answer. Let's move on to the next question. In India, which of the following can be considered as public investment in agriculture? So when you say investment, it is usually 2 things that you need to remember. One is long term public investment. Second term is capital expenditure. Right, with this two concepts, you can start looking into the answer. Fine. Fixing minimum support price for agriculture produce of all crops. This is nothing to do with investment. Computerization of primary agriculture credit societies. Of course, this is a long term. It's an asset creating activity. This is right. Social capital development. Of course, this is also an asset creating activity. Right. Free electricity supply. This is not. This is a kind of subsidy. This is also gone. So with this statement itself, you can say the fourth statement is wrong. So fourth is gone. 4 is gone here as well. Right. 1 is also gone. So the answer here is 2, 3 and 6. Right. Even you can either eliminate and get the answer right, or even if you go the waiver of agricultural loans by banking system, this is also not considered. Whereas setting up of cold storage, as I said, this is for long term and capital expenditure. So the answer for that is C. Moving on to the next question, that is 72nd question. What is the importance of the term interest coverage ratio of a firm in India? So what does it basically mean is, it is a company's capacity to pay the interest, right, and also to run its show. That is to have the regular operations. So that is the meaning of interest coverage ratio. In fact, I would classify it under difficulty level. If you know the answer, if you know the concept of interest coverage ratio, only then you can attempt this particular question, or else you should have left this question. Clear? It helps in understanding the present risk of the company. Yes. So going by the definition that I said, it tells the company's capacity to pay the interest and also to run its operations. That is the meaning of it. Of course, it tells the risk of a firm that a bank is going to give loan to. It helps in evaluating the emerging risk, right? The present risk and the emerging risk to which the bank is lending the money to. So going with this definition, both the statements are right. The higher a borrowing firm's level of interest coverage ratio, the worse is the ability to service. This is the other way around. The higher the borrowing firm's level of interest coverage ratio, better would be the ability to repay the loans. So going with that, this statement is wrong. 1 and 2, that is nothing but A. So the answer here is A. As I said, it's of difficult nature. Only if you know, you should have attempted it. Yeah, moving on to the next question. Which one of the following factors policies are affecting the price of rice in India? right? It's a very generalized question. So going with that, minimum support price also affects the price of rice in India. Government's trading also, right? To open markets when it trades, right, from the stocks that it sells in the open market, or government stockpiling also will impact the price of rice in India. Consumer subsidies also, right? Because say suppose you're giving the rice for say 10 rupees or even 1 rupee rice that was in Karnataka, but obviously this will impact the price of rice in India. So all the four, that is nothing but D here. Yeah. Moving on to the next one, that is 76, that is under the Kisan Credit Card Scheme. Short-term credit support is given to farmers. So short-term credit is uh, will look into the consumption expenditure also, right? Consumption expenditure and day-to-day, that is basically the day-to-day expenses. So that is the meaning of short-term credit support here. Going with that understanding, which of the following purpose? Working capital for maintenance of farm asset, that is day-to-day expenses. This is right. Purchase of combine harvesters, tractors, and this is a long term. That is capital. What do you say? Capital asset. So this cannot be the answer. So when 2 is not the answer, if you're striking 2 years, 2 is here, 2 is here, the answer is 1, 3, and 4. So even if you know the rest of them or not, you can arrive at this answer directly. Clear? So even if you got post harvest expenses also falls under short term itself. Construction of family house, this is comes under long term. So this is wrong. Clear? Yeah. Moving on to the next question. See, this is again a direct question, and it is also a easy question here. So the weightage of food in consumer CPI is higher. Yes, this is, of course it is higher, because 48% weightage is given under CPI, whereas 26% is the weightage given under WPI, right? So the WPI does not capture the changes in the prices of services which CPI does. Of course it is, because WPI looks into only the goods per se, whereas CPI, it is more wider. It looks into both goods and services here, right? So this is right. CPI is higher. This is also right. Reserve Bank of India has now adopted WPI as its key measure. No, it has adopted CPI because of its wider nature in terms of the goods covered, even services covered, and also more importance is given to the food aspect of it, the consumption part of it, right? So third is wrong. So 1 and 2, that is A only. So that this comes under the category, easy category itself. Fine. Let's move on to the next question. Consider the following statements. In the case of all cereals, pulses and oilseeds, the procurement at MSP is unlimited. So I think in cereals, yes, the word all also matters, and it includes pulses and oilseeds. So that is the reason outrightly I can say it is wrong through the elimination method. In the case of cereals and pulses, the MSP is fixed in any state at a level to which the market price will never rise. Very vague statements given. So outrightly I can, through the method of elimination, I could have marked it wrong, and the answer is neither. So what you can see is, in certain questions, even without knowledge, using your presence of mind and common sense, you could have got the answers right. So that is what I'm trying to stress here. Clear? Fine. Let's move on to the next one. With reference to Indian economy, consider the following statements. Again, a direct question here. So these are nothing but different money market instruments or debt instruments, which are meant for short term. So that is nothing but less than 1 year. All of them that you look into are uh, for less than 1 year. So commercial paper is a short term. Yeah, promissory note, this is right. Certificate of deposit is again a short term, not long term. So this is wrong here. So 2 is wrong. You're removing 2 year, 2 years. So you're left with. So 1 is outrightly right. So even without going through the other options, you can directly get the answer 1 and 3, that is C. So call money again is a short term finance. Again, yes. Zero coupon bonds are interest bearing bonds. These are not interest bearing bonds. It is it is given at a discounted price. Say suppose you, instead of 100 rupees, they give it at a discount of 90 rupees, and at the maturity, at the level, on the day of the maturity, it becomes 100. That is how this is, zero coupon bonds are operated. Fine, right? So again, as I said, elimination method, basic idea of the concepts again will help you in getting the answer right. Moving on to the next one, the 81st one. The reference to FDI in India, which one of the following is considered as the major characteristics of FDI? It is the investment through capital instrument, essentially in a listed company. No, it is largely a non-debt creating asset, capital flow. So what do you mean by non-debt creating capital? Because it means, basically means uh, you will not have a burden to pay it back. Right, that is the meaning of non-debt creating capital flow, and all the countries, right, will be looking forward for this kind of flow, because there'll be no burden for the country to repay it, right? In fact, it produces long-term benefits, like it provides employment, then it produces goods, all that. So there are more positivity of it. So the answer here is B. Let's move to the next one. Move on to the next one, the 82nd one. With reference to international trade of India at present, which of the following statement is correct? India's merchandise exports, that is nothing but goods exports, is less. So always we have that deficit. So this first statement is right. India's imports of iron and steel, chemicals, fertilizers and machinery have decreased in recent years. Says you do not know, you can keep it on hold. But if we actually go, we are still dependent on more of imports of iron and steel and chemicals, fertilizers. Right, that is the huge demand that we have. So it is actually right. Say suppose you do not know, you can just keep it on hold, and you know that first statement is right, so you can remove this since one is not here, right? India's exports of services are more than its imports of services. This is outrightly right. Right, going with that, the answer is D. Even without reading the last statement, or even without knowing this statement, you could have got this answer right. So this comes under easy. India suffers from a overall current account deficit. Of course, this is right. Fine. So 82 is D. And why do we have that high current account deficit? The reason for that is two reasons. That is the love for gold, right, and our love for crude oil. Because of the huge population that we have, because of the culture, all that, this demand though will never go down. So that is the reason most of the time, majority of the times, we fall under current account deficit. But there was a news which I had read, I think in January, there was that current account surplus. So basically it means deficit is nothing but we are importing more. So when we are exporting more, it becomes current account surplus. In fact, China is one of the country which has that current account surplus. Clear? Yeah. Moving on to the next question. In the context of Indian economy, non-financial debt includes which of the following? For this, again, as I said, your understanding of this non-financial debt should be very clear. So non-financial debt consists of credit instruments issued by government entities, households and business, right? That is not a part of financial sector. So it also includes treasury bills and even credit cards, right? So going with that, housing loans, credit card balances, basically. Uh, this is also right. Treasury bills also is right. So the answer for that is right. So only if you are knowing what is the meaning of this non-financial debt, you could have answered this particular question. Moving on to the next question. With reference to trade related investment measures, which of the following statement is correct? Quantitative restrictions on imports by foreign investors are prohibited. This is true, because they would lead to trade distortions. Then they apply to investment measures related to trade in both goods and services. No, it is only related to goods only. So 2 is gone. So 2 is wrong too. So if you're just eliminating 2, the answer that you'll get is C, that is 1 and 3. So it's an easy one if you know the concept, and through elimination method, right? Yeah, moving on to the next question. 87th, if the RBI decides to adopt an expansionist monetary policy, which of the following would it not do? So it is saying which will it not do. So first of all, you need to understand what is this expansionist monetary policy. It is nothing but increasing the money supply in the market to boost the economic activity. So how do you increase the money supply? Is when you decrease the interest rate, what will happen is more people will take the loan, more people, there will be more money in the market. So when, say suppose the housing loan you give it for, initially you are giving it 8%, and now you say you are giving it, you will give it at 6%, obviously there will be more buyers because the interest is low. So there will be more people who will be taking loans. So there will be it will be inducing more money in the market, right? Even the rate at which the RBI gives it to the commercial banks, all that, even when that is reduced, there will be more money borrowed from the commercial banks and more money would be lent to. They will also reduce their interest rate and there will be more money given to the common man. So this is how it completely works. Clear? Going with that concept, cut and optimize the statutory liquid ratio, it will not do that, right? So first of all, you should know what is this SLR. It is the minimum percentage of deposits that a commercial bank has to maintain in the form of liquid cash, gold or other securities. So cut down is nothing but to lessen. That will, it will not do it because this is an expansionist monetary policy. Increases the marginal standing facility. What will happen if it increases, right? This is nothing but see, marginal standing facility is basically what is, again, this is kind of borrowing, the commercial banks borrowing it from the RBI or the central government whenever they are in need. The overnight borrowing, it's called overnight borrowing. So if at all it increases, what will happen is the rate at which the commercial banks borrow it from the RBI increases, and obviously they will also increase the rate at which it will be giving it to the common man. So this, so it should not do is increase the marginal standing facility, then cut again or reduce the bank rate and repo rate. No, it shouldn't do, right? So it is basically the, what is bank rate or repo rate is nothing but the rate at which the central bank gives it to the commercial banks. So it will take the securities and it will give. So the lesser the banking rate or the repo rate, the more the commercial banks will borrow. That is how it works out. So this, and it will not do. So this and this is gone. So the answer for this is B. That is 2 only. Fine, it's an easy one, provided that you know the concepts here better. As I said earlier as well, economics is a subject where if your conceptual understanding is sound, it becomes one of the easiest subject. And as you have seen, the knowledge and elimination method combination has worked out really well in economics. So the people who are good in economics, right, or even polity, they would have scored at least that. Getting 80 in this particular paper was not at all a difficult task. Even when we have done that, we had done that Telegram poll also. Most of them, what we found is most of them were opening around 80 to 100, this range, 85 to 100 range for general merit. Fine, especially the 90 to 95 range, most of them. Anyway, when I'm in the end of the session, I'll be discussing about the cutoff as well, right? So let's get into it later. Yeah, moving on to the next question. With reference to the Indian economy after the 1991 economic liberalization, consider the following statements, right? So it is talking about post LPG era. Worker productivity increased in urban areas while it decreased in rural areas. It has nothing to do with productivity at all. If you pre or post, right, there's nothing to do with productivity. So this is wrong. So if one is wrong, this is gone and this is gone. So you're left with 2 options here. The percentage share of rural areas in the workforce steadily. The percentage share of rural areas in the workforce steadily increased. Let's keep it on hold. The rural areas, the growth in non-farm economy increased. Of course, right? Most of them were agriculture. When the LPG era, because of that liberalization, more people started moving to the urban areas, and more people started looking at activities that are non-farm activities as well, right? So the growth rate in rural employment, yeah, the growth rate in rural employment decreased. Yeah, this can also be true, right? Because as I said, more people started moving to the urban areas and looked for other alternatives like working in factories or even non-farm activities, all that, right? So the answer for this is 3 and 4. So I would still say that this comes under the difficult level. Clear? Yeah. Moving on to the next question, right? Uh, Consider the following statements. In terms of short-term credit delivery to agriculture sector, DCCBs, District Central Cooperative Banks, deliver more credit in comparison to commercial. No way it can happen, because always the commercial banks have more lending capabilities, right? So this is wrong. One of the most important functions of DCCBs is to provide funds to the agriculture. Yes, this is right. It doesn't give directly to the people, but it gives it to the agriculture district cooperative society. So answer for that is B, right? So I would say that this is comes under the moderate difficulty level. Clear? So let's move on to the next question. So we are done with uh, the economic section of it. So the remaining section that we are left with is history and the current affairs part. Well, that is the last section. Clear? Yeah. Coming to the history section, we have this is one of the highest questions that had come this year, and the most difficult of all the sections. I think out of 19, majority of them was in like see what I do is like in history, the art and culture, right, is basically overlaps between ancient and medieval history. So that is how I've done. Then the third part is modern history, and majority of the questions this time had come from ancient world. I think 1 or 2 from medieval, and another 7 to 8 questions from modern history. That is how it was distributed. Even the modern history questions, even though it was 8, they were tough questions. In that itself, you could have answered 4 or 5. The ancient and medieval, though, it was very difficult. Right? Yeah. Let's move on to the first question of it. Yeah, with reference to the culture, see here, as I said, most of the questions are factual. So I'll be doing this section very quickly. I'll not be getting into the concepts or whatever the complete information or details of the particular section. With reference to the cultural history of India, which one of the following is the correct description of paramitas? The answer for that is paramitas is basically means perfections. Perfections whose attainment led to bodhisattva path. Right? This is the answer. In fact, this was also covered in our Babapedia, that is value added notes. Not sorry, Babapedia. It was covered in our value added notes, history value added notes. The detailed analysis consists as the screenshots as well. Let's move to the next one. In the context of Indian history, the Rakmabai case of 1884 revolved around, like, she was an educated woman. She was a doctor. That is all most of the people know. But more than that, if you actually look into it, again, it's a very tough question. The answer for that is women's right to gain education. No. Age of consent. In fact, there was this Age of Consent Act also, probably in the 1890s as such. So restitution of conjugal rights. Conjugal rights is nothing but the right of sexual intercourse between husband and wife. So restitution is nothing but restoration or compensation of it. So the answer for this is 2 and 3. That is B here. Clear? Again, a very difficult question. It was better that you should have left this question. Right. Indigo cultivation in India declined by the beginning of this. Was one of the easiest question that you could have answered, because of the unprofitability of the world market, right? So what happened is the natural dyes that came into picture, that is artificial dyes, and they took over the market. So that is the reason they started losing out, and the Indian farmers started moving to sugarcane, right? Yeah, next question. Wellesley established the Fort William College. This is one more easy question. Wanted to train British civilians. It was established around 1800, wherein so that the British civilians understood the culture, the language, all of the Indians. Moving on to the next one, 15th, the reference of to the history of India, Ulgulan or the Great Tumult is the description of which of the following events? Again, a very tough question. The answer for that is Birsa Munda's, and in fact, this was directly covered in the history value add notes of the RLP program. Yeah, with reference to the scholars, literatures of ancient India, consider the following statement. Again, a very difficult question. There's nothing to explain. Here, the trend that you need to follow is the court poets, right? And during which kings? This is the trend that you need to follow. This is so many times they have been asked, right? So here, the answer for this is C. That is 3 only here. That is Kalidasa is associated with Chandragupta II or Chandragupta Vikramaditya. Both are one and the same. In fact, Amara Simha, it is a contemporary of Kalidas. So it is not associated with Harshavardhana. In fact, it was during this period. So this is wrong. Panini is associated with Pushyamitra Sangha. No, in fact, Panini is a Sanskrit scholar. He comes before this particular thing. So the answer is 3. Moving on to the next one, with reference to again a very difficult question. You can see the series of difficulty level here, right? The reference to the history of India, consider the following: Orang in charge of treasury. It is wrong. It is wrong here. Mirasidar. They were nothing but, especially in the south, that is in Tamil Nadu, they were the village elites, right? Even if you look at the tenure, land tenure system from 1800 to 1947, right, the beginning of the 19th century, right? It was not at all egalitarian, right? Even now it is not. So even then there was not egalitarian, and they took care of control of the entire what do you say, the farms, and under Rohitwari settlement system, the government recognized this Mirasidars, Mirsidars as the sole proprietors of the land, right? And the complete land rights were taken away from the common people. So here the answer for that is 41. The answer for that is C only. Difficult. As I said, again a difficult question. Moving on to the next one, with reference to the religious history of India, consider the following statement. Again, a very difficult question. If you actually see, right, most of the time you get questions from the Indus Valley civilization, Buddhism, Jainism, but the depth to which they have asked, right, it cannot be matched. And I want to say that students don't start getting into this trend again. See, it is like the trend keeps changing, and this such questions, like if it is difficult for you, it would be difficult for others as well. And finding solutions to this questions itself, it took us a lot of time. Right, when we did not have that time constraint of 2 hours. Yeah, even then when we with the experience of some 8 to 10 years in UPSC, we took so much of time to get the answers. Then it must have been really difficult for you to sit and answer in the exam hall. So don't worry. So don't get into the trend of searching and spending and wasting your time on such questions. Right, on, yeah, 42nd, I would directly say the answer is B here. That is 2 and 3. Second statement is right. The first statement is wrong here. So I'll be moving on to the next question. Which of the following statement correctly explains the impact of industrial revolution on India during the first half? This was again a easy question. Nothing but Indian handicrafts were ruined because of industrial revolution, right? Because of course the products that was developed because of the industrial revolution, it was at higher, it was lesser price, right? Whereas this was priced higher, and the government also did not, the British government did not take or care a damn for the handicrafts in India. And you have a complete chapter also in Bipin Chandra and Spectrum. Yeah, moving on to the next question. Again, a very difficult question here, right? Consider the following events in the history of India. The answer for this 2, 4, 1, 3. That is chronological order, starting from the earliest time. The first one, that is during the 7th century, it is Pallavas. Then it was Cholas, right? Then it was Pratyaharas under King Bhoja, and finally it was Pala dynasty. Fine. Just know the chronology here. So the chronology becomes important because these kind of questions can be asked, right? At least have a fair idea. Which of the following phrases defines the nature of undi generally referred to it in the sources of post-Harsha period? So it is nothing but a bill of exchange. So terms are asked, especially in medieval history, right? Even in ancient history, and they'll ask what is this meaning and in which context it was used. So this kind of questions are expected. With reference to the book Deshar Katha, written by Sakaram Ganesh during the freedom struggle, consider the following statements. It warned against the colonial states' hypnotic conquest in mind. Yes. It inspired the performance of Swadeshi state plays. Yes. It used the word Desh. Yeah. This particular question. So that is the reason even in our answer key, what we have done is it is either 1 and 2 or it is 1, 2 and 3. So we have given both the options. So we are not very clear with it because there is no concrete information that we have got. Clear? The Gandhian impact. This is one more question that you could have answered. So I would say this is another easy question you should have attempted here. Right? Invitation to Congress to participate in round, yes. Withdrawal of ordinance promulgated in connection with, yes. Acceptance of Gandhi's suggestion for inquiry into police excesses, it is wrong. Release of only those prisoners who were not charged with violence, right? Release of only those prisoners who were not charged with violence. So this is right. So it is 1, 2 and 4. So the answer is B. In fact, this was one of the reason why, right, that the issue with Bhagat Singh, where the critics say that Gandhiji could have saved the life of Bhagat Singh, right? This is one of the reasons. Moving to the next question, the Vittal Vidwansak, the first monthly journal to have the untouchable people as its target audience, was published by. See, again, Jyotiba Phule is also an answer. Ambedkar, it cannot be Ambedkar, it was too early, not even Gandhiji, so it should be between B or A. And the answer for this is Gopal Baba Gankar. Right, moving on to the next one. With reference to the history of India, the term Kulyavapa, Dronavapa, right, denote measurement of land. This is comes under medieval history. The answer for this is A. Again, a very difficult question. Who among the following rulers advised his subjects through his inscription? Whoever praises his religious sect or blames other sects out of excessive devotion to his own sect with the view of glorifying his own sect, he rather injures his own sect very severely. It is none other than Ashoka. Again, a very difficult question. You can see the level of difficulty in history, especially this year. That these are the questions you should have left. And in fact, I told this earlier as well. You should know which ball in a game of cricket. Also, you should know which ball to hit for a 4 or a 6 and which ball to duck. With reference to the history of India, consider the following. Again, again a difficult question. Dwara Samudra is nothing but the Halebeedu, that is in Karnataka. See, since I am from Karnataka, Bangalore, I know this. So it depends on the place also. So it doesn't mean that everybody would be knowing this. So again, as I said, this is a difficult question. So 2 is wrong. So 2 is wrong, 2 is wrong. You're still left with 1 and 3 and 1 and 4. So this is wrong for right. First is right, right? And the next one, Girinagar, Gujarat. I think this is also right. So the answer for this is A. Let's move to the next one. With reference to the period of Gupta dynasty in ancient India, the towns Ghantasala, Kadura, Chaul were well known as for port handling foreign. This could have been answered if you would have read the ancient history. So I would say this is too easy to moderate level. With reference to the cultural history of India, consider the following pace. Pari Vrajaka, Sharman the Upasanka, all this, right? I'll directly get into the answer rather than reading out, because as I said, again, it's a very difficult question. The answer is B, that is 1 and 3 only. So this first statement is right. Second match the following is right. Fine. So the answer is 1 and 3. So now coming to the last part of it, that is current affairs. There are 7 questions which had come and pretty easy ones. As I said, clear demarcation cannot be done with respect to current affairs because it has overlapping nature with economics and environment and science and tech. Fine. So let's move to the first question. Consider the following statements. Aadhaar metadata cannot be stored for more than 3 months. It is not 3 months, 6 months. Initially, it was 5 years, but after that, in the initial act, but the Supreme Court came in its 2018 judgment. It said that it should be 6 months. Then state cannot enter into any contract with, yeah, this is right. Aadhaar is mandatory for obtaining, no. Initially it was mandatory, but after that 2018 ruling saying that it is unconstitutional, making Aadhaar and PAN mandatory. In fact, it can be on voluntary basis, as that KYC norms it can be given. So this is outrightly wrong. Then Aadhaar is mandatory for getting benefits funded. This is right. So the answer is 2 and 4. So the B is the answer. Again, this comes under difficult level itself. In India, the term public key infrastructure is nothing but digital key infrastructure. A is the answer here. The value of Indo-Sri Lanka trade as consistently, see, using common sense, you can get this answer. The value has consistently increased in the last decade. No way. The trade usually does not consistently increase. Right? This is the word, and it also depends on the relationship. The other factor is, major factor is, it depends on relationship between the country, because there was on and off relationship between India and Sri Lanka, and right, especially with that Tamilians issue, all that. So this cannot be right, wrong. So first statement is gone, first and first is gone. So it has to be 2 or 3. Textile and textile articles constitute an import item of trade between India and Bangladesh. Of course, textiles, right? Major one. So I think the answer here is 2. That 2 only, that is B. In the last 5 years, Nepal has it is not Nepal, it is Bangladesh. Clear? In South Asia. So in which one of the following groups are all the 4 country members of G20? It's a direct easy question, that is nothing but A. The term West Texas Intermediate, sometimes found in news, is nothing but, again, a very easy question, crude oil. So as you can see here, there are easy questions as well. These are the questions that you should have got it right. Consider, and the margin for error is very, very minimal in this particular test. Consider the following page. International agreement, yeah, Alma-Ata, it is healthcare, correct. A convention, it is not A convention, it is, I think, Geneva Convention, that is related to biological weapons, so this is wrong. And the A convention, it is related to children. Kelowna dialogue, climate change, this is also right. Undertook is also related to climate change, it is wrong. So 2 and 4 is wrong, sorry, and that is nothing but 1 and 3 is right. So C is the answer here. Clear? In India, why are some nuclear reactors kept under IAEA safeguards while others are not? Some use uranium and others use, it is not because of that. Some use imported uranium. Because we import uranium, we come under IAEA safeguards. And the best example is that Iran issue also, right? So wherein you can know why it comes under IAEA safeguards is because when you import uranium from other countries, and others use domestic supplies. Right, as it is said, we are rich in thorium, but we are largely dependent on uranium. That is the reason our nuclear policy says we should move forward or head forward to using thorium in our nuclear reactors. So finally, we are done with all the sections from polity to history, economics, geography, science and tech, environment. So the most awaited question, before that, I hope you have understood the method of elimination, the thought process that should be involved when you're looking into the answer. As I said, the knowledge, the common sense and the elimination techniques, all the 3 put together can really work wonders in prelims exam. So only based on knowledge does not work. As I said in my earlier initial talk also, prelims is not only about your knowledge. It's like 60 to 70% on your knowledge. The rest 30 to 40% depends on the mental framework, the mental strength, the emotional balance. All that matters, the calmness and confidence in the exam. Right, I've been stressing on this even in my previous sections as well. So now coming to the most awaited question, that is what would be the cutoff this year, right? So first of all, to tell you, this is not the right time to speculate on the cutoffs, right? But if you still ask me what would be the ideal cutoff, so going with that word ideal, with the poll that we had put on our Telegram channel, right? And with the students that I had come across, with the messages that I've received, what I feel is the cutoff cannot be more than the last year cutoff. So it will more or less be on the similar lines, or the ideally speaking, somewhere between 95 to 98 or around 95. So that is our prediction, because even in fact last year and before that also, both the times what we predicted was absolutely we were spot on. So this time I predict that the cutoff can be somewhere around 95, right? But not more than the last years. So what I would like to say is, any student who falls under general merit and who is getting 85 plus, then there are more chances that you would clear the cutoff this year, because there are at least 4 questions which are ambiguous. Right? Even if you're getting that three or whatever questions you're getting it right, so that leads to another 10 marks. So there are more chances of you clearing this exam. So that is the reason, if you're getting 85 plus and you're coming in under general merit, so it is like you should start off without wasting time. And it is not only with respect to people who are scoring above 85 plus, even people who are not in that range also should start, because this is the phase that should be meant for mains preparation. If you're clearing, or no matter whether you're clearing the exam cutoff or you're not clearing prelims cutoff, right? Your focus should be on mains phase till the month of January, right? You should completely exclusively focus on mains. Clear? And the other thing that I want to tell you is, mains is one phase where you can completely control. Unlike the prelims that you have seen, right? It is completely unpredictable. Interview also, you do not know which board you would go to, right? But mains is one phase where you can completely prepare and give your best shot. It never lose this opportunity, and you can join us with our most trusted program of IS Baba for mains, that is TLP program, right? Program that is like referred by every topper, right? We'll be waiting for you in the program, and all the best. Thank you.